Hello, my name is Luke DeCasper, and my policy is the reunionization of America. First and foremost, let's go over what unions are and who supports reunionization. A union is a group formed by workers in a similar field which allows for them to have more collective say in company matters. Reunionization in America is championed by low and medium income families throughout the United States. Historically, unions have been opposed by many, including the federal government. An example of this could be the Pullman Strike of 1894. Here, thousands of train car workers formed a union and collectively went on strike to protest unfair wages and working conditions. In response, President Grover Cleveland sent federal troops, which caused an outbreak of violence. However, as unions continued to grow in America, the National Labor Relations Act of 1935 was enacted to protect worker rights to organize without any deterrence. The main problems this policy seeks to resolve is income inequality. According to the Economic Policy Institute, half of the world's wealth now lays in the top 1% population. Additionally, according to Michael Wright, a director of health in numerous nationwide union organizations, states that the wealth gap has more than doubled within the last 3 decades, following the decline of unions. The costs of reunionization are hard to identify. Historically, there are very little, if any, economic repercussions for unionization. Many claim that monetary incentives provided through unionization lower worker efficiency. However, according to Nobel Peace Prize in economics recipient Abjoot Benji, an increase in monetary policy has no change in the labor supply or worker effort of individuals. Additionally, many claim that unionization brings violence. It is important to note, however, that historically this violence usually was antagonized by the federal government. For our argument, we are analyzing reunionization with federal backing, meaning that the chances for violence are very, very low. Moving away from the costs, let's talk about the benefits. There are many. Benefits include a strengthened democracy, giving workers more of a voice, reduced inequality, allowing for middle wage workers to receive fair pay, raising wages, and a narrowing of the gender pay gap to a safe work environment, and even the possibility of health care and insurance for its members. A little more on the safety aspect. The data shows that non-unionized OSHA inspections of construction sites have twice as many safety violations as their union counterparts. Additionally, unions work to hold employers accountable for safety violations through legal and monetary actions. Due to the fact that we are focusing on how reunionization will help with income inequality, let's dive a little deeper into a few of the benefits. According to the Economic Policy Institute, the wage of a typical worker only rose by 0.9% yearly from 1979 to 2015, while the top 1% had a raise of 190% in the same time frame. This disparity is further supported when we look at the graph developed by that same institute, which shows income inequality trends. As you can see, the share of the income going to the top 10% has gone steadily up throughout the years as union membership declines. Furthermore, according to the same institute, union members have a 13.2% higher salary than their non-union counterparts. Unfortunately, even with the wage benefits, income is still falling for the middle class. As you can see in this graph, this is in large part due to union disintegration through the ages. So again, looking at this graph, we can see that the middle class, or the middle 60% of families, have had a lower share of the income year by year. Additional way that reunionization helps with income inequality is by narrowing the gender pay gap. Data shows that wages for women is 9.2% higher than their non-union counterparts. Additionally, the presence of unions in the service industry allows for an 87% increase in compensational benefits and a 56% increase in wage compared to non-union workers. And again, the service industry is statistically mostly comprised of women, which means that this policy or reunionization could help them drastically. The final way in which reunionization helps with income inequalities by providing health care for its employees. While not every union does this, many of the largest and most successful ones do. Some even covering family of its members. It is likely that with federal backing, more and more unions would be able to offer these benefits. So moving on from that, now that we've covered the benefits, we need to see who would gain from them. The answer is all workers benefit from reunionization. The data shows us that in a society of increased unionization, wages for non-union workers in the same sector rise as well as those union members, of course. The losers in this situation is everyone who currently opposes unionization. This is the 1% and the large corporations of America. These individuals and groups are losers in a society of reunionization because, as mentioned before, a large portion of its profits would go back to the people and not into their own pockets. So as we mentioned, the reunionization of America aims to lower income inequality. And so the way unions are able to advocate for this is through lobbying in Congress, which actually changes laws surrounding the issues and is one of the only ways we'll successfully be able to implement federal backing of unionization. We already have reunionization in effect, and we also already saw how this affects the wage rates. However, we must also analyze how it will affect the labor market. While there is little science on this due to how quickly the economy has changed in the last couple decades, history shows us that reunionization has little to no effect on supply and demand in the long run, and that unions actually raise the standard of living for all. Personally, I see the reunionization of America as a massive thumbs up. Reunionization is a good policy because it provides living wages for workers, provides safe work conditions, promotes democracy, provides healthcare to thousands, reduces inequality, and it is morally correct. It is hard to advocate against something that has no proven negatives and that the only advocates against are massive employers and corporate lobbyists. The data shows that 57% of private employers threaten to close sites immediately if workers unionize. This just goes to show you how the helping hand of Americans has been corrupted by these lobbyists and these anti-union advocates. Now that you have heard all of the info, I hope you will support the reunionization of America. Support it so we can see all prosper, so we can see all enjoy a higher standard of living, and so our kids can live in a better, wealthier, and richer world. If economics were not enough to sway your mind, support this policy because it is morally the correct thing to do. Unionization gives workers a safer environment to work in, provides healthcare for those in need, and gives everyone a better chance of living a happy, prosperous life. And doesn't that just put a smile on your face? These are my sources for this. Thank you all for listening.